Hi everyone, this is Candy Johnson. I am your host, and this is Real Talk, brought to you by Real Raw Records. Today's topic is God created sex, and I think this is our third session of this topic and series of broadcasts concerning sex and its relation to spirituality. Hi everyone, this is Candy Johnson. I am your host, and this is Real Talk, brought to you by Real Raw Records. Today's topic is God created sex, and I think this is our third. Yikes! I hate when that happens. But anyway, this is our third broadcast with this topic, and we've gotten so far with this subject as to discuss sex in its relation to our society, as far as how it affects us in many ways, and we've even discussed some tips on how to associate sex with our mental depiction of what a relationship is about, how we should behave, and in a relationship. But this topic is just one of those topics where it's just not as engaging when it's just me talking, and I there's a lot of things I could say concerning sex. Okay. There are a lot of things that I could bring up concerning sex and in its relation to spirituality. But I'm very interested. I'm actually having this topic because I'm very interested in what other people think, and what's the reality for other people. Okay. Because if I can, I would love to address certain things that perhaps people are having a problem with in their relationships, and perhaps we can address it as of something we did in the last topic that we had on sex with when G-Man was a guest here. We discussed the problem with the Christianity and people that are practicing the Christian religion that perhaps may have thought that it was immoral or a sin to perform oral sex with their mates or what have you. And so we hopefully cleared that up in that broadcast. Okay. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are very intrigued by sex itself. So we could probably keep having broadcasts concerning oral sex, and they would enjoy it. But that's not really what this broadcast is about. It's just talking about having sex. It is actually the purpose of this broadcast and having this particular topic is to get people more aware that there isn't anything ungodly about sex. You have people out there who have done some very immoral things concerning sex. And because you have a lot of different ways to be violatory or violate others sexually. People have gotten this mentality that sex is a bad thing, and that's why we have the topic sex is a beautiful thing. All right. I even wrote a song titled "Sex is Beautiful," and the lyrics says, "Sex is a beautiful thing when it's done the right way." And what I mean by the right way, I'm not talking about the actual sexual position that you do it in, because when it comes down to sexual positions, then different positions are more pleasurable to others than others. All right. From what I hear, a lot of people enjoy doggy style. All right. But I have actually been married to a guy who didn't care for that. I mean, he would get turned off with that position. So when we talk about sex being beautiful when it's done the right way, we're not talking about specific positions of sexual act. Okay. So what are we talking about? Well, what we're talking about when we say the right way, done the right way, we mean within the right parameters. On our last broadcast, not last broadcast, but one of the broadcasts we had earlier this week, I forget what day it was, but anyway, we had a guy come on the broadcast, and the broadcast about fake ass Christians. We had a guy come on and he was trying to explain how pedophilia was a natural sexual desire. Okay. And that's what we mean by sex is beautiful when it's done the right way. When people think that impure things are pure, that's the reason why, that's what we mean by when we specify right between right and wrong. All right. Now, in your mind, because if you're a heterosexual person and you think that having sex is pure as long as it's between a male and a female, then that's not right either. Okay, because even scientists have proven that impure sexual desires occur during between heterosexuals. A person who desires to have sex with somebody who does not want to have sex with them, that is considered a rapist. Okay, so just because it's done between a man and a woman, that does not necessarily mean it's being done the right way. All right. As well, you have sexual encounters, people who prostitute. And you have male gigolos that prostitute with this woman and that woman and other, and extend sexual favors for money. That is not being done the right way when we want to talk about the difference between right and wrong. All right. And of course, everybody's familiar with the prostitution with females and males, males paying for, sexual encounters. All right. So that within itself, people say, well, I don't think it's wrong, and I think it's wrong that the law stops a person from selling their body. If they want to sell their bodies, then they should have every right to do that. Yeah, you're right. They do have every right to do whatever it is they want to do with their own bodies, and I can agree with that. But when we was talking about sex is beautiful, when it's done the right way, we wouldn't include prostitution in that for a reason, because generally, from what I've seen from those that do prostitute, they do so because they don't value their bodies. And so there's nothing right or good about not valuing yourself. Okay. Even the men are indulging in that because they don't value their bodies. And they don't think that their bodies are sacred or special in any kind of way. Our society has taught men that their bodies are not sacred or special in any kind of way, to the point that they actually will commend men that are whorish and sleep with this woman, that woman, and the other. Okay, and meanwhile, some people in our society will look down on a woman who is promiscuous. So, in that regard, when we speak about right and wrong, we're not saying that a person doesn't have a right to have sex with whomever they want to. But what we are saying is that, hey, there's some perimeters that needs to be placed upon having sex, and we're defining what those perimeters are, and we can easily identify and evaluate within what parameters does it seem like to be the best outcome when this is taking place. Okay, so it's nothing about religion or anything like that that we are getting our standard for what's right. Okay, it's not just religion, because I personally don't believe in marriage papers. Okay, the reason why, and I'll tell you why I don't believe in marriage papers. And what I mean, I'm not saying I don't believe that people should get papers. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a lot of people get married. A lot of people get papers, to validate that they supposed to have a commitment to another person, and they violate those papers. This is why people end up in separation or divorce. Okay, some people even stay married to a person or bound by that paper, but their actions are not a form of commitment at all. They cheat with this person, that person, and the other, or they do other things in the relationship that violate the commitment. They mistreat their spouses, whether it be domestic violence or verbal abuse and such. So when we say sex is beautiful when it's done the right way, well, I'm sure y'all seen that movie with Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It, where he raped his own wife. Okay, she really didn't want to have sex with him because he was being whorish and doing all other kind of stuff, and he was high and stuff, and he just went in the booth and he raped her. Okay, and so some people might say, well, the people that believe in marriage, they might say, well, that wasn't rape because that was his wife. Are you serious? That was a heterosexual relationship. He was married to her, but she did not want to have sexual relationship with him, and he went in upon her, and because that was his wife, some may say that he had every right to do that, but that was very violatory. He violated her. Okay, he had no respect or regard for her feelings or anything. So it's I don't think people give much thought to when they say when they're placing parameters on what's right and what's wrong. So just to say you married and you have a piece of paper, well, that paper does not. This is why I say I don't believe in just the paper. And I won't say I don't believe in the paper, but let me specify what I mean by that is that that paper don't mean shit unless you have a mental commitment to someone. And vice versa. I've seen people very and extremely committed to one another, and they do not have a paper. They have not exchanged marital vows, but they have just committed to one another. They really do love each other, and they've been together for years and years, and they're just really committed to one another. I don't think a lot of Christians realize that before there was a Bible, or before we had this type of governmental entities in place, people were still committed to one another. They didn't even have marriages the way that what we consider as being a marriage now. Okay, they might have had some type of ceremony or before a crowd of witnesses and said, we are committing to one another, and acknowledge that before witnesses. But before there ever was a piece of paper, there has always been two people that made up in their minds to commit to one another. So to me, marriage and commitment is not defined by a piece of paper. It's defined by two individuals that have made a vow to themselves and to each other to commit to one another and commit to the relationship. And within those parameters, I think sex is a beautiful thing. Some people think about sex and they think that the only thing associated with sex is the actual physical act of being involved in intercourse to the point where there's a penetration that exists. Okay, but sexuality includes and is has more, is not bound by an actual penetration. I'll give you a good example. I knew a guy, his whole he only had the upper portion of his body, so he didn't have the function of the lower perimeters of his body. I also saw a story once on a young lady who didn't have the function of the lower perimeters of her body because they were cut off. And so she only had the top part of her body, and her husband used to carry her around and stuff like that. He had to literally carry her around. And he loved that woman so dearly. He loved that woman so dearly. And the reason why the news media did a story on her and him was because it was just so amazing to see them together and enjoying one another and everything. And she had to have some type of surgery to have a baby. And she still had her stomach area and everything, her womb and so forth. So she had to be, what do you call that? His semen had to be inserted. She created the baby in her womb. She, had the baby and everything, went out the term and so forth. And then they had to have a C-section to retrieve the baby from her womb. Well, and it was such a beautiful story. It was so beautiful to see them, and and just together and loving on one another, and to see the guy, how much he was just crazy about her. You could tell he was, and just to think that she didn't even have a vagina, but he loved her to death. Because when you talk about sex and you talk about intimacy, you can have sex and intimacy, okay? But you can also just have sex without the intimacy. And this is what I was saying about the right way. When the intimacy is there and is present in a relationship, that's what we would say consider as being the right way to indulge in sexual activity. So, like I said, I really would prefer to have this topic and have engagement where people can bring up some points or some experiences where we can address and question those things and weigh those things out. You say, okay, this is right or this is not right. Okay, because I think there are a lot of young people who have no clue what's right and wrong as far as sexual relationships or intimacy, because there aren't enough adults displaying what's right and what's wrong, or literally teaching and telling them what the effects of becoming intimate with another person, the effects that it has on them emotionally and physically. So this is what's causing a big problem with sexuality in our society. I saw on Facebook, and I wound up blocking this person, but I saw this person had posted on Facebook a they were circulating some type of article or advertisement for child dildos. I'm gonna repeat that. Child dildos. It was a smaller dildo made for a child to use. And this is what the pedophiles and it was actually being circulated. I mean, it was created by a lesbian woman. Now, people don't think of women as being pedophiles, but that is very pedophilish to create a dildo for a 5-year-old. That is disgusting and very pedophilish. But people will circulate that, and the gay community will say, well, it's okay. We're allowed to, we're allowed to have our sexuality, and it's okay, and it's wonderful, and it's okay, it's cool, because we have every right to do whatever we want with our bodies. But we making dildos for children now? See, y'all, the thing about the gay, and I'm going to do a whole, another broadcast on the gay community and sexuality, because y'all are just not getting it, okay? People seem to think that just because a person is not in agreement with homosexuality, that they're automatically a homophobic. A homophobic, I would consider it to be a person that's very hateful towards the gay community. You don't have to be hateful towards something to not agree with it, okay? Or to find fault in it to the point where you say, no, I'm not in agreement with this particular thing, act, or whatever, okay? So my whole purpose for speaking out about the, not against, but about the gay community is because I think people need to be better informed about what it is that they're really doing, what it is that they're engaging in and condoning, if that's what they're doing, if they're condoning a type of behavior. There's some things that go along with that I don't think people are really being considerate of, or perhaps they have considered it, or they are very aware that it's going on, and they're either secretly okay with it, you know, undercover, you know, like, you know, being sneaky about it, or they are just not aware, are very naive and didn't even think about what condoning this type of behavior entails. Because I noticed that in life, a lot of times when people are in agreement with things that are negative, they haven't given it much thought, and that's the reality of it. They have not given it much thought. So we want to invoke people to think, make more informed decisions. Okay, informed doesn't mean I'm gonna give you all the evidence to pull you to my way of thinking, or make you believe or think the way that I do. Informed means that you have sufficient enough information that addresses not all angles, but as many angles as you can think of that is involving that particular situation or circumstance, and you got enough information to make a wise decision, okay? Or should I say, an informed decision. So it is important to make informed decisions, because if we're haphazardly going with the flow and just, you know, doing what everybody else is doing, you'll find a lot of times that if you're following the crowd, I think the old people used to say, the blind leading the blind, they both gonna fall in the ditch. But in the meantime, in between time, as always, I ask you all to keep it real or take your ass back to fantasy land.